For so long, I identified so heavily with my pain, where I didn't feel like it was separate from me. I felt like I always had to be in pain to be alive. Like, I never was able to separate my own personal identity from like what I've been through.
Right.
So in that relationship, like, he had also been through a lot of trauma. And I was like, oh, I see you. You see me. But it was a lot of undealt with trauma on both ends, where we were kind of like filling a void with each other. And we were both running away from our problems by running into each other. And then when it wasn't working, we'd run away, and then we run back, and then we run away, and it was very unstable, and it felt like home. So I just kept going back.
Knock him out the box, Rick. Knock him out, Rick. Knock him out the box.
You're Jess Roman.
Yes.
You're a musical artist. Can you tell us more? Like, what's your story? Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Oh, getting all existential on me already.
Yeah. Whatever that means to you, and then I'll kind of go from there, and I'll ask questions that I feel are interesting, or just because I just I want to know your story as deeply as you want to go, and kind of thinking almost reverse engineering from who sits before me today, and like what were the experiences that made you who you are and got you to figure out your passion,
Right.
And the purpose, I guess, is like to inspire other people to figure themselves out. That's the first thing. And then it might be music, it might be plumbing, you know, but, but you got to like I want to know people's journey and their story.
Yeah. So who am I? I guess like intuitively, what comes off top when like someone asks me that is like, I'm just a being. Like, I'm just out here, a human having an experience, you know. But I think a big part of my story is like how I grew up. I'm the oldest of 6 kids in my family. Well, my mom had me when she was 15 and my dad was 18. So that was a really interesting experience growing up. I feel like I grew up a lot younger than I should have had to. So I'm only 23 now, but I feel like I'm 83 sometimes, and I forget that I'm so young. Like, I feel like really young. Like, I'm still learning all of the time, but I also feel really old sometimes because I've had so much happen in my life to this point already, you know? Like,
I
so
totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Although I don't really know the specifics.
Yeah.
So what would those be? Just curious. Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Well, I need some more like, I don't know where to start. Like,
start from the beginning. Like what did you go through? I'm curious. Because I had my own like whatever journey, suffering, crazy shit that like our family was the first to immigrate from the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
So like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
We didn't know anyone here. We had no money. And I saw them. I was 4, but I really saw them come from nothing to have, you know, become serial entrepreneurs, basically.
Beautiful.
You know, and I learned a lot from their accomplishments and a lot from their mistakes. And you try to they want you to get better than them, you know?
Yeah.
So what brought you here to make you this person that says, I'm just a being? Because I know you answer it that way. I've seen your Instagram.
Yeah.
So I get that. But then I do think that what you do for a living is not about the money. It's about, should be an expression of who you are as much as possible.
Right.
And if it's not, it's something that people usually suffer through.
Yeah.
That's why, not because it defines you or like you're better or worse. I think
definitely.
Nobody's better than anybody. A lawyer is not better than a gardener.
Right.
To me, it's
and I agree
figure
with
out
that.
who you are and be that thing, but also you got to make some money.
Right. No, of course. And when I talk about how I don't like to be asked, what do you do? I think it's the energy behind the question.
Right.
And it's not always like, well, what do you do? Like, and that's the energy
it's
that I'm talking about.
What do you drive? Kind of.
Yeah. And it's like, and I feel like at least in like Los Angeles culture or whatever, people are like, what do you do? Because they're trying to probe and see like how you can serve them or like what transaction you can make or whatever. And it's not because they want to know about you. And that's the energy that I was like referring to in that like post wrote. Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm glad to hear that because I don't like that either at all. And I feel it right away. The words are,
because I'd rather be asked.
The words are poetry, but like the tone and the physical,
it's all about delivery,
presence and the delivery and the energy and the way they look at you or trying to like.
So what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? And they looking at your shoes and your
Yeah.
They're sizing you up. And as you get older, you get good at sizing that up.
Yeah.
Without them knowing.
The energy.
Without them knowing you're sizing up, them sizing you up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, look, like, if it's all about the transaction, this ain't going to be a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Let's just
exactly.
enjoy each other's conversation as long as it lasts and, say goodbye.
Right.
Love each other from a distance.
Yes, exactly. But that's what I was referring to. And I appreciate when people ask, like, well, what do you do to like be happy, or what are your passions?
Yes.
Like, what do you care about?
How did you get here though? Like, you have, I'm assuming, a mini series movie story. So why not start with like volume 1?
Yeah.
I was born in a small town. Blah, blah, blah,
I was born in Pomona, California.
Pomona, California?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. So local. Always been a local.
Yeah.
That's
it's
important.
Like an hour away from like downtown, maybe.
Don't underestimate your story.
No.
People can relate to you. There's millions of people that will relate to your story.
Definitely.
It's not that your story, it's not that yours is more or less relatable than anyone else. Mm-hmm. There's millions of people that relate to everybody's story. It's really about the person opening up and sharing the truth as much as they can.
It's not about me underestimating. I think I just like don't know where to begin. But I guess so. I was born to really young parents. Really young parents.
And you were the oldest?
Yeah, I was the first.
So you were like the third, like, partner to run the family a little bit. Yeah.
Well, so my parents separated like shortly after I was born because they're so young. Like, given. And
I'm a divorcee too, so I'm just saying I can't not understand that.
Well, they were never even like married, or they're so young. My mom was a freshman in high school.
At that age,
it's really crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So then I lived with my mom for a while, until I was 5, and then one day she dropped me off at my dad's house for the weekend. And then like didn't come back for a month, and I was really confused. And like she came back with a school uniform and was like explaining to me like, okay, you're gonna go to school here now. And I was just so confused. And I lived with my dad and my grandma, so it was my grandma's house, and I consider my grandma really like my only parent sometimes, because she raised me, and my dad was like there, but he was a drug addict, heavy alcoholic, just like was not present at all. And then my grandma was always at work, so I kind of had to like raise myself.
And your mom wasn't in the picture?
No, she was like supposed to pick us up every other weekend, and then like didn't. So she was like there but not there.
Do you know why? Like what her story is, sort of?
Yeah, well, I mean, not completely.
She had her own issues, I'm assuming.
Yeah, she's so young, and like I resented her for so long because of it, because I felt abandoned, and I felt like my mom doesn't love me, like she doesn't want to be in my life.
Right.
But getting older, we've been able to like mend our relationship in such a beautiful way, and especially as being an adult now, I understand like life is not always so easy, and parenting does not come with a handbook, especially when you're that young. Like you could never be prepared for that. And I know that like she wanted really badly to be in our lives, but she was also going through so much as a young girl who like also didn't have the best life growing up, like didn't have the best parenting growing up. Like it was a cycle, and she wasn't properly set up, and it's not her fault. So I've been able to like mend that relationship really beautifully, but it was definitely a struggle. So then she kind of like wasn't in the picture for a while, and then my sister came about, which is like another crazy story, but her and I have the same parents. She's 6 years younger than me.
So they still kind of
it was
connected here and there.
Yeah, here and there.
Gotcha.
But it was just extremely toxic.
Yeah. Can I just say that something I've also learned through experience, and it's I think the best mindset to have, and it creates all more love and more opportunity for relationships, is the expectations on parents should be set very low in terms of, like you said, people have gone through their own abuse and situations. So it's not that they necessarily owe their child anything. And the only reason I look at it from that side is be appreciative of anything your parents do. That way you can love them for who they are. And the things they can't do for you, don't get stuck on the expectation. Just like, identify that is a weakness in them. you didn't have control over who your parents were going to be, and sometimes we get dealt a hand that isn't, easy to play. You know what I'm saying? But you can still win with a 2-7.
Right.
You can, because it's up to you really at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It really is, but it's I just want to emphasize it because for a lot of kids, that's a really tough mountain to get over.
Yeah.
The like insecurity, the self-doubt, self-worth, whatever that might come with. And you were able to get kind of over that with your grandma, or whatever else. I wonder what affected you in that way to allow you to be the confident adult that you seem to be.
Yeah.
Or are you just seeming to be that? Which
hey,
I
fake
am
it till
too.
you make it. I'm just kidding.
Hey, me too.
Some days I am, some days I'm not. It's fluid. But we appreciate the ups and the downs.
Johnny Lieberman said, that, and I thought this was very inspiring because he's what a lot of people would say, oh, they really made it. Wow. But he's like, I feel like an imposter all the time.
Yeah.
Because I always go like, what if I have nothing to say today? What if today I'm not good?
Yeah.
What if today I can't create music? But these are just doubts that most of us deal with on a daily.
It's a human experience.
Eventually get used to them just being noise and just walk right past
what you got to do.
Thank you. I got you. Yeah, I get it. And just keep going.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to be a phony because I have gotten past that with my mom. Like with my dad, it's a different story. And I'm still working on that healing and I'm still working on the forgiveness but I think it's because I grew up not closer to my dad, but am closer in proximity where my mom was not able to do as much damage because she wasn't there, and that alone, that already is damage. But when you're growing up with a parent that's constantly doing damage, it's a different story,
That's
and
interesting.
It's I know that some people, have abuse that they are just things that they have to grow through from having an absent father. And sometimes I'm like, man, that might have been easier for me,
I honestly said it, I think, in the last interview that often people think they missed out and they focus on the negative side of not having a father figure. I had an overly strong father figure with insecurities and not intelligent, not emotionally intelligent like he could have been, not his own fault, right? Which didn't allow me to really go big the way I wanted to in my life, maybe in some cases, because it was always this pressure of pleasing him and staying close to what he thought was the right thing.
Right.
In the back of my mind. You know what I mean? And that held me back. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that don't go, oh, I didn't have a father. Just focus on the fact that you had that freedom too.
Yeah.
Because that also gives you the freedom to not be controlled by something that, that could be harmful.
Right.
And and another great point you're making is that's why, obviously you got to weigh your situation, but staying together isn't always the best because if you or someone else is going to be toxic, it's my kids thank me now.
Yeah.
That I got divorced.
Yeah.
When in the beginning they were really upset. They literally go, hey, I'm so glad you got, for me and mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both went through a lot of pain, but ended up okay, I guess we weren't really meant to be together or it wasn't really the right fit.
And I think sometimes that's people might think, oh, you're selfish for not being together for your kids. But I think it'd be more selfish to stay together.
Right.
Because it's you're together, but you're putting your kids through constant abuse without even realizing it.
Exactly.
And
just witnessing abuse.
Yeah.
Verbal, emotional.
And that's abuse towards the children as well. It's witnessing. They don't want to see their parents hurting. They don't want to see their parents hurting each other. And that's one thing that I'm glad that my parents are separated, but also then they just got with other partners where it was the same cycles.
Sure.
So I just witnessed multiple different toxic
relationships. Well, because it's all about you. That's what I realized. When I first broke up with my ex, we were together for 11 years. Both of us, I'm sure, blamed each other, and I definitely blamed her in my mind because it's easy to do that because you're not getting along. Of course, that person's not necessarily good for you. It's easy to say, well, you did the, It wasn't until years later that I started seeing like the cycle repeating, even with her, the arguments starting again. That I was like, okay, I'm definitely not doing something here. It's all really about you. So if you don't change yourself, the partner is not going to be the one.
Yeah, it's never going to be.
It's a two-way street.
Well, the thing is, partners are always going to be a reflection of you.
Sure.
And that's something that I had to learn is like, even not just partners, like romantic
partners. Well, you're not
going to
allow partners, or if your partner's emotionally intelligent, you're not, you're still going to mess it up.
Well, because you're projecting.
Right.
So then it becomes a reflection of you, and the relationship becomes a reflection of your inner world. And it's like, it takes a lot of strength to take accountability for your wrongdoings. And it's a lot of the times projection. And that's what I've had to learn is like, okay, this person actually isn't doing anything wrong. I'm searching for things that they're supposed to be doing wrong so that I could self-sabotage and I'm projecting.
Okay. What if you're emotionally intelligent or you're working toward that and you're open toward that and your partner is not?
Yeah.
Do you believe you can have that partner be a reflection of you if you stay true to that, or is that when you say this isn't working out?
Well, if you're emotionally intelligent and you see that your partner isn't, I feel like then that's the cue to like release that attachment, and that would be a reflection of yourself and your growth.
Exactly.
You know, not necessarily the person, but I'm saying like relationships could be a reflection. Like
if you're in a relationship, look at that isn't working. Look at yourself. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So I'm saying not exactly like the individual, but like if you think of the relationship as a separate entity. So it's like if you and the individual are not aligned, then that relationship is severed. You have to release that attachment because you're reflecting through that relationship.
That's what I wanted to hear because I thought I was just making sure you weren't saying that, well, if you're really doing the right things, then they'll reflect that. And so it's really on you to save the relationship, which sometimes it's not because it's a two-way street.
Well, yeah.
But you're right. If you're in it, you got to go, why am I in it?
Yes.
Is it because I'm not figuring out how to get out? Am I scared? Like, still look at yourself.
And then if you are in it and if you continue to be in it, well, like, and sometimes you don't realize it right away. It takes years to process trauma. It takes years sometimes to process what happened in the moment. But for me, looking back on like toxic relationships that I've been in, I realized that like those were the only patterns that I grew up seeing. So it was familiar to me. And growing up in a toxic household, like being unstable is familiar to me. Like being, fighting all the time is familiar. It feels like home. So in retrospect, I realized that like that was a reflection of like things that I needed to heal within myself. So because I kept perpetuating those cycles, I realized that like, oh, this is why I'm suffering. Like I need to change this cycle. Like I need to not perpetuate these toxic cycles that I was that I was brought up with, and these generational cycles, because it happened with my mom, my grandparents, their parents. And I realized like I've never seen a healthy relationship in my entire life.
Right. Same with me. Swear to God. Like my parents, and when they seem healthy on the outside, that's sometimes even worse. Yeah. Because then you can easily go, this is normal. The fighting is just what happens.
Yeah.
Look at Married with Children.
Yeah.
That's what they portray on sitcoms is always them not really getting along. And one is an idiot and one's smart. And it's like, you're such an idiot. And they talk down to each other and they scheme against each other because it's funnier that way, right? But that's what I thought was the reality I know it was comical, but I'm like, yeah, that's what was happening to me in a way.
Yeah.
But how did you realize that wasn't the way it was supposed to be? Was it books? Was it friends? Was it like other couples where you're like, wait a second, you guys don't like yell at each other and call each other names? Huh.
Yeah.
That's weird. Ever?
Doesn't
that mean you don't care?
Yeah. I'm like, you're not fighting for each other. You don't have to suffer
you're just
for
not
love.
a passionate type. I see.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's actually, but it's a long process to get there because it took me a long time. And it was a lot of like my wife and I saying to each other, hey, I don't like when anybody raises their voice, so let's not.
Yeah.
And calling each other out.
Yeah.
Because it was a habit to like, when it gets heated, to go, I don't understand. And it's like, hey, we were both a little sensitive to it. So we're like, you know what, I already was raised with somebody yelling at me all the time. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, and
know
I
what
feel
I
like
mean?
relationships should be like a safe space,
Right.
and a safe space to like talk about conflict.
Right.
And
We
it doesn't.
became that. We evolved into that. I just want to say that if you're with someone that's willing to learn,
Yeah,
you can learn together.
yeah,
And you can change together. You change by learning.
right.
You don't change by forcing. You
Right,
change by going, hey, I read this book.
right.
Kind of made sense. It's like one of those like chess master books.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, have you ever tried this move? And you go, oh my God, that's
Yeah.
genius. And then you make your game better.
I haven't read her book yet, but I'm on her Instagram a lot, The Holistic Psychologist, and she makes like little threads.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned about like the inner child and healing the inner child, and like the way that we perpetuate cycles that feel familiar to home, and that like why we do that and things like that. And that's like kind of what kickstarted my like journey to healing in a way, which is like kind of recent, you know?
How long?
I would say like after my last really horrible breakup in like 2019, I've been dedicated to like, okay, I don't want to go through that ever again. And what did I do to contribute to that situation where I found myself in a situation that was not healthy? And like, what can I do differently to not find myself in another situation that way? Because I can't just always play the victim. Like, this person did this to me.
Right.
Because it's like, I also allowed that person into my life.
Right.
You know, and I
You didn't
manifested
listen to
that.
were there signs?
Oh my God, so many. But like I said, it felt like home. And I
Right.
didn't realize, like,
Same.
it didn't, and it was such a like,
It's not
like
about
a-
beating yourself up, by the way. It's about recognizing it and going, oh, that's why we
Learning.
connected. And I let those flags go because those feel familiar to me.
right.
But now I know that's not what I want. And when you know where it's leading, then you listen.
right.
It's totally reasonable to ignore the flags. That's why divorce is okay.
yeah.
I'm
Of
just saying, like,
course.
I was really haunted by that I was like a failure in that way. But
No.
sometimes you don't know and you get into a situation and your sense of responsibility keeps you there.
Right.
You
And
just
also,
keep building on it, thinking it's going to last forever and
Right.
that this is normal.
right. And the idea of like forever doesn't really resonate with me because I
Neither.
feel like everyone serves a purpose in each other's lives, right? And
Right.
sometimes like that purpose is to teach me a lesson for this specific amount of time, and then
Right.
I evolve through that, and it's a beautiful thing, and you don't have to like
This is one of the I honestly feel this is one of the principles that if people learn, they would free them up so much. There's so
Yeah.
much anger and wasted, misdirected animosity toward the man or the woman of your children that made your
Yeah.
children, or just friendships that because of like desires or needs or changes in opinion, hey, I want to go travel the world and be like a gypsy musician now, or I don't know, just whatever popped in my head, and the other person wants to build homes and build up a community. Like, if that's really what you want to do, your life is not meant to be shared with somebody, one person. I really don't
Yeah.
believe that's true. It's the problem a little bit with Disney movies because they created this like happily ever after and the one and all that, but it limits you. It keeps you
Yeah.
with somebody that maybe isn't for you because you're like, oh, I don't want to let go of this dream and this
and the
this image that you
time.
put out to people,
Right.
and this idea that you wasted time versus
Yeah.
what an experience. I did not waste a single moment with my ex. I realize now that's what I needed to wake up someday when I finally did later to go, I need to read books and go to therapy. Like
Yeah.
I took myself to therapy going, why do I feel guilty? What am I doing wrong?
That's beautiful.
Open up.
Right. Yeah.
I was just open to the feedback.
right.
I was never reading those books until then. And that's why I know it's not about any particular book. It's about me finally taking my fingers out of my ears and not saying, la, 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 I already fucking know. Shut up. Don't tell me. I already know. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing is like for me, I always love to say, like, all I know is I don't know. So that way I'm constantly learning, constantly constantly learning, because life is so fluid and we are always evolving. And that's why I don't believe in the one, because we're all connected to one source and we can find parts of ourselves in so many different experiences, and
Everything.
we grow always. So
Absolutely.
the idea of the one is very limiting, because it's like, yeah, that might be the person that I can share those beautiful experiences with in that moment. And maybe we will last until we die.
Right.
But we don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that idea of there not being the one also helps to be present in the moment and appreciate experiences for what they are.
Absolutely. First of all, this is the pinnacle of my personal philosophy is I don't know anything. I may see patterns. I may see I may read information and go, all right, that makes sense. But I also know be careful what you read.
Right.
I'm always open. I'm always
Yes.
open to
And I
getting
question
better.
everything.
Yeah. Yesterday, my 16-year-old was in the pool with a few of his friends, right? And then I was like, hey guys, I said, hey, you guys some of you want to be entrepreneurs? Yeah. I'm like, hey, if somebody came to you and said, hey man, you like donuts? Let's start a business, but let's sign a contract where we're partners forever. And you're like, well, I like donuts, but why this forever thing? Oh, come on. Don't you love me? Well, yeah, but why don't we just try it out and see where it goes?
Yeah.
And if we happen to be together forever, that's a miracle. Wow. Then we must have been so good for each other, supportive. Because if you're not, you should part ways as business partners, right? And I'm like, would you take that part? Like, hell no. I'm like, well, don't do that in your personal relationships either. Honestly, even if you get married, whatever that means to you, to me, and this is not this has nothing to do with the value I put on my partner, because we're partners. Long before the piece of paper. But, I'm open. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So if that makes people outside of us happier to see that there's a formal document, that's fine.
Right.
For us, it don't matter.
Right.
And we both know it.
Right.
I just want to be clear about that so people don't go, well, I should get married. You don't have to at all. And both of us know that doesn't keep us.
Right.
It didn't keep me the first time. I would never keep her. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
As soon as she's like, oh my God, I just had a light bulb moment. I need to go. I'm like, wow. Can I help?
Yeah.
And I might be hurt. It's not about that.
Right. And
We're all separate players, unfortunately. I know it's nice to think that someone could be one with you, but one of you is going to die someday too.
Yeah.
So then what? What do? You just bury yourself right away? No, that's not what's intended. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay to move on, and it's okay to love the person's memory and talk great about them. But I keep saying lately, it's a one-player game. People often think that's a selfish thing, but I'm just saying it's reality. I didn't say that it's a one-player game to shoot everyone. I said it's a one-player game, but the best way to play, in my opinion, is to have a beautiful team.
Right.
Hopefully they're not just avatars, but because people seem real to me, they're maybe at minimum other players in this game. But it is a one-player game. You do kind of come in alone and you leave alone.
Right.
Probably. Maybe you go somewhere else and you meet up everybody. Great. Again, I don't know.
I don't think
But I'm just,
does.
that's the pattern I see with how to enjoy this experience the best without guilt, without anxiety. I got rid of a lot of my anxiety by just questioning the beliefs that were giving me anxiety.
Right.
I'm a bad father. I'm a bad husband. I'm a failure as a person. What? From who said that?
Right.
Was it me? No.
Yeah.
Who said that I'm a failure? But I believed that. And therefore I lived that way until I was like, you know what? That's not true.
Right. Right. Yeah. It takes a lot to, I think, question your own thoughts too. And I was reading, I forgot
Really
where
hard.
it was, but it's intrusive thoughts and really
Yes.
grounding yourself and realizing that those, you are not your thoughts,
Right.
that you can view them as clouds passing by, being mindful and being like, okay, that was a thought that I had, and I released that thought, and I released that attachment, and I released that limitation. And it takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of grounding and practice to do that.
It is really just practice, because everyone goes, because it's meditation, and I don't meditate formally, but I try to meditate whenever I can.
Yeah, same.
Meaning, if I'm exercising and it's quiet, I'm just meditating.
Yeah.
It's about being present. It's the practice of just being present and letting go of things that are taking you out of the present, basically. And just, that's why the breath. That's why
connecting to your breath is
and
so
then,
important.
And then connecting to what's going on with you. If something's bothering you, okay, like you can also entertain that for a second. You can't force a cloud to go by either.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be like, damn, that's a fucking, all right, I got it. The fuck off my screen already. But you got to let yourself like think about things that are on your mind too.
Right.
That's how I do it. It's in like intentional,
reflect on
kind
them.
of reflective meditation.
Like, why
more.
is this entering?
I'm not sitting and going like that, but that's good for some people. And I want to get to that, honestly. I want to wake up in the morning
and be able to sit and be.
That's okay though. I don't want to judge myself. I'd rather do what I can. If I'm washing the dishes, if I'm doing anything mundane or walking, or driving, I'm focused, but I am
think
like
a lot while I'm driving,
chilling,
write music.
Yeah, turn everything off sometimes too, and just.
I had it's really funny. My car before this one, I had a Chevy Malibu, 06 Chevy Malibu, and it was like run down, and it didn't have a radio because I blew out the speakers. So I was driving around for like a year with no music, and that was like probably one of the best things for me because I was able to reflect every time I would drive. And I like would write a lot of music because I didn't have a radio. So I was like, okay, let me sing about what I'm feeling while I'm alone in the car. And I would just like voice memo everything and then like put it in my notes app after I got out of the car. And it was like such a beautiful thing that came out of like like my radio went out and I was upset. But then I was like, wait a minute, this is actually pretty cool because it gives me so much space and like time because we have to drive to get places anyway. So I had to be in the car anyway. So it was really beautiful to be able to like turn that experience into a moment to reflect every single time.
I understand that more than you know because I had an epiphany during my 10-year evolution when I started reading like about meditation or anger management or whatever. I felt like, let me look into that, and not be shy and embarrassed to look into it. But the meditations, the mindfulness made me realize at some point driving that I never had quiet time ever. Yeah. Like I literally either had a book, an audiobook, the radio, conversation in my ear. Even if I'm driving, I was never just driving. Yeah. And I remember turning everything off. And that was the first time I did that where I'm like, I never had the radio off in my car. Yeah. Most people don't. Yeah. It's always on something.
Just background
whatever
noise.
It is, music, AM, whatever. And that really started changing things because it was like starting to practice being mindful and practicing being mindful like during heated moments sometimes.
That's a practice.
But that took me forever. It was always after that I go, damn, I shouldn't have like gotten upset. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that was a big start. I'm just saying if that's where you start, then that's where you start.
Yeah, everyone has to start somewhere. Right. I think it was really cool that I started by accident. Like I was listening to a Frank Ocean song, like really Pyramids by Frank Ocean, and that song has a lot of like bass and my speakers blew out and I was like, no, but it worked out. It worked out for sure.
So Frank Ocean was like sending you a sign.
Yeah.
He's like, let me blow your speaker out so you can
Shout out to Frank.
Awoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, it's interesting because a lot of times I'll meet somebody that looks like they're maybe even an established artist, and we'll start talking, and I know that we start talking about mindset. Whenever that happens, I already know because we're all on an evolution of some sort. So I'll say like, how long have you been this person? And they know what I mean. They're like, oh man, 4 years ago, I was a fucking mess. Yeah. Like I met this guy. I was a pro athlete. And then career ended. I fucking didn't know what to do with myself. Got into a bunch of bad shit, partying, and was on a downward spiral. And then you see him now, and it's like, see, nobody would. And he goes, I know, nobody ever even imagines that. And I go, that's why you got to be on the podcast. Like that's
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful that we always, no matter how old, how young, we always have an opportunity to evolve. Every single day is an opportunity for growth. And who I am today is probably not who I'm going to be in a year. And that's beautiful. And I think that's how it should be.
Yes.
And
always
like,
changing.
Always changing, whether that means growing or maybe like falling back a little bit, because healing is not linear. And I have had to come to realize that, to forgive myself for certain things and like see myself as human and be able to be like, okay, today is just not a good day. And that's okay. That today I just don't feel my best.
Right.
And this month maybe was not the greatest month for me, but next month is going to be better. Even like whatever amount of time, this week, this month, this year, or whatever, you know, because it's always constantly an opportunity to change and grow.
Yeah.
So
acceptance was a big deal for me.
Acceptance.
That's I was the word always I was beating myself up all the time. And some book made me realize, because you hear it all the time, and I just didn't. Sometimes it just doesn't click for you until you can relate it to something you learned personally. Mm-hmm. That's all. So that's why, like, sometimes you read stuff and it doesn't necessarily work for you. But I remember like realizing that if I don't accept who I am now, whatever I'm trying to get to, I'm just gonna keep sabotaging. Like, you fucking suck, you fat ass, you're lazy.
And it's,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think for me, I used to speak really like ugly to myself.
Yes. I still do it a little bit.
Sometimes. I'll catch myself though, and that's the beauty. It's like always, it's not the first thought that matters, but the second thought where you correct yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to remember is like sometimes I'll be like, damn, like, why did you do that? You're so stupid. And then I'll have to remind myself, like, no, you're not stupid. You made a mistake.
Right.
And it's okay because people make mistakes. But I really had to reprogram my mind to not hold myself down every single time I made a mistake. Like,
so a friend of mine, Vivian, posted today that even when you're joking, like, be careful, because your mind doesn't necessarily understand. And when it hears a joke, I don't know, like, that's where I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to, you don't want to have like thin skin.
Right.
So I think you got to have thick skin for other people saying shit where it's like, hey, okay, fine. You don't like it, but you go, I know where that's coming from. As long as you understand, like, it's coming from a bad place, they're in a bad place, or they're just trying to be funny. Maybe they're not that funny, whatever it is. But internally, it made me realize, like, man, I'm still not that good at it. Like, I still will say jokingly, at least, like, oh, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is that really affecting me? Maybe.
It might be. Yeah, because I'm the same way. Like, I'll joke all the time. Yeah. Like, just say things. But
to be humble, to, like, be self-deprecating, because that's what we're taught.
In a way, yeah.
Which works, though. So I think it's, like, finding the balance.
I think, it's a balance between, like, not taking yourself too seriously all the time. Because I definitely joke, because I'm not one to be, like, super serious about myself all the time, which I think is a good thing, because there's so many people who take themselves so seriously, and it's like, relax, like, it's okay.
I will say this, and this is maybe a good topic of conversation. As much as this might be an unpopular answer, if you have to pick one or the other, you got to go for confidence. Because you notice that carries people so much further. Even when people are hating on you, which a lot of that might be, envy, jealousy.
Right.
It's creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, when you're like, I'm the greatest, you should be also putting in the work. Hopefully you understand that the greatest thing is because, like, Mayweather's putting in the work to be the greatest.
Right.
But he's not saying, maybe I'm the greatest. He's like, oh, I'm the fucking greatest. And that's what gets him to work. If he was like, maybe I'm the greatest, he might take a night off and go, you know what, man, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. No.
Right.
So there's a fine line.
It's a really fine line.
And depending on your personality and your brand, your identity as an artist, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's important. I think for you, it's definitely being authentic. I think that's for me too. Like, what you kind of, I'm a little bit limited to that, I feel.
Okay. What do you mean limited?
That's my limitation. I have to be authentic.
Yeah. Okay.
At least for me.
Is that a limitation though?
I just thought about how that could be considered a limitation. And I'm just saying, from a vulnerable standpoint, people can say it could be, because it does limit my options. It does. But that's a good limitation. I don't think it's a bad limitation.
Yeah. I feel like being
I'm not open to
authentic.
every opportunity. You
Right.
gotta say no to like certain waves that don't fit who you are. Like what
Yeah,
you're
and I
trying to
think being
portray.
authentic is always gonna attract the things that align with
Exactly.
you. So I think being authentic, it attracts other people that are also authentic. It attracts authentic opportunities. So
But you have to repel people too,
of course,
and be
of
okay
course,
with that.
yeah.
I was telling Josh the other day, this is very interesting to think about. Even the most famous, most popular, most liked person in the world still doesn't have everyone following them, which means a lot of people still don't really like them.
Right.
So you're going to always have more people not liking you than people liking you, no matter what you do. And if you try to, the more people you try to please outside of who you are, the less people like you anyway.
Yeah, because you're not being authentic
Right.
at that point. Because
It's
you're
a catch-22.
Yeah, and no one wants to be around someone who's trying to be someone that they're not.
Especially because they're trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not that fun to be around other people that are also like faking it too much.
Yeah.
Faking it till you make it is that more about a confidence play, by the way. You know what I mean? Like faking your confidence. It's not about being fake.
No, of course.
I just want to be clear because I think some people take it like, well, that's not cool to fake it, man. And it's like, no.
It's not faking
Fake
it though.
your confidence. Like, if you were confident, what would you do? I'd get up in the morning, go to the gym. All right, then, even though you don't want to get up, just do it. Because
Right, just push
assume that
yourself.
you're a champion. What would a champion do? And do that.
Right.
Fake. That's what I mean by faking it. It's not because you're not being who you are.
Yeah. And
First, figure out what you
it's-
want to do, then fake the confidence.
Yeah, and it's faking, like sometimes you might not have the motivation, so you just got to push yourself through that, and that's what like the faking part is just pushing through all of those limitations that might be coming up for you.
Right. And the reason I say confidence is because that always will take you over. If you're like, hey, like, if I thought I'm for sure going to do whatever I want in music or be what I want to be in music, what would I do today that gets me to that? You should reverse engineer.
Right.
It's what all the great minds do, by the way.
Right.
They envision really well, either through a vision board or they just sit and meditate on that. And then they, if they're smart, they reverse engineer as best they can. Like, what do I do to get to Taj Mahal? Okay, today, it's 7 years from now. What do? I got to put out music. Okay, so I got to put out music once a week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or I got to work on music every day. That's the path that gets me to, those levels.
Right.
Whatever
yeah.
level and if you're not confident, you're never going to like stop to go, let's see, where do I want to go? Because you'll be like, I don't know.
I don't even know if I can make it
Yeah,
there.
and then you're
like,
just going to wander without like setting these challenging goals that are self-fulfilling prophecies. That's why they're so powerful. You got to put a number because that number will drive you to try to get to that number, which will make you make decisions that support that number. And then you'll go, wow, it's crazy how we hit the number. Yeah, because you wrote it down. That's why.
Right. For me, in this space and time in my life right now, I feel like this is the first time that I just moved out of like my family home this month.
Wow.
And it was a really, really toxic environment, like extremely toxic. And I think this is the first time in my life where I've been able to relax and breathe and feel safe in my environment. So right now I'm taking the time to figure out what I even like when I'm not in survival mode, and that way I can set a goal based on things that I care about. And I feel so blessed and fortunate to even have the opportunity to do that, because some people never have the opportunity to think about, what do I like? And I think that
without anybody breathing down my neck, threatening me with emotional distress, physical distress,
and
so
it's been, this time in my life is all about like transition.
Wow.
And rest because I feel
mental and physical.
Yeah, both. I've been sleeping and I like was getting down on myself. I'm like, get out of bed, girl.
No.
But also I'm like, I've been through a lot just in the past year. Like,
you need to heal.
Yeah.
Like physically, because that takes a toll. As they know, stress does kill.
It does. It does.
Fucking, because you're in a constant state of survival.
Right.
Which is good if you're being attacked by a bear.
Right.
Like for that 5 minutes, not for 5 years straight or 15 years straight.
Right.
That's a little too much. Your body's probably like needs like a few years of really good care. It's not that you need to like sleep for 3 months,
but just
you just probably need to get good sleep, take care of yourself, not be around. You know what they told me about Cannoli? He was like he was a shelter dog. He was homeless and went through a lot of stress, and that's why he's so anxious with people.
Yeah.
But the trainer's like, one of the things you got to do, because I kept trying to get him exposed to people. She's like, let him relax for a while.
Yeah.
Let him get out of the habit of being always so stressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
To even be able to be a relaxed dog.
Right. And I've been
nerves are
embracing
frayed.
that. I've been embracing that. But part of it, I feel a little guilty because my sisters are still in the house. They're minors though, and I can't really do anything about that. But then I had to come back to myself and be like, I can never help them if I can't help myself.
Right.
And if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anyone else.
Right.
So that's like the position that I'm in my life right now. And I am an artist and I am a singer. I've always been a singer. I wrote my first song when I was 6 years old. And I've always been a singer. Like, it's literally just how I live my life. Like, it's how it's like breathing to me. So I'm like, okay, I know that I might want to do something with that, you know, like that. I know that I want to help people, and that might be through music, it might not be, but right now I'm just trying to figure out what best ways I can serve myself so I can serve others.
Okay.
It's a lot to digest.
Can I recommend?
Yes.
If I could, as a friend, that you say you are doing music for the rest of your life. Why are you saying I may or may not? Honestly, like from what you said, that you basically need it as much as you need breathing, like a Van Gogh type thing to say.
Right.
So like, and I've heard you have talent. So how could you not, if you're ever not in the music industry on some level, I'll be like, something's up. I'll know something's up. I'll know that you got dragged into something that wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like financial. If it's financial, you got to put bread on the table for somebody you're caring for that's dependent on you for their life, like a child. And I understand that.
Yeah.
There's usually ways to get out of that and still go back to, like, at least, like I said, the industry, producing music, writing music.
No, I know that I'm always going to be doing something with music no matter what, but I just don't know at what capacity yet.
Sure.
Because I did go to college for 2 years and I wanted to be a music therapist, and then I realized that I hated school and I just couldn't keep going. And I think at that time it was also just because my mental health was so low and I just did not have the energy and the capacity to be in school. And I have not completely thrown away that idea that I may be well enough to go back to school and learn, because at the end of the day, music for me is like another language, and it's a tool, and it's a way to go deeper within yourself and a way to go deeper with other people. And I'd really love to use it as a tool to help people. And I love performing and I love writing my own music. And if that helps people, that's amazing. I'm not sure though if that's the capacity that I'll always be at with music. It might take me down another path. And that's
Right.
the part that I'm saying that I'm trying to figure out is like, I know I love music and I know I want to do music. I want to be music and I want to share music. But at what capacity? Because there are so many layers to the industry and so many different ways to use this tool.
And that's okay. I just guess emphasizing, you will find your sweet spots.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I will.
You definitely can do the singing.
Yeah. Maybe.
I wouldn't say that. I just probably wouldn't say anything about it. I wouldn't want to like mess with your confidence because it's so important. But since I do believe that, I really think that's something. It's like, you know, Cody wants to play in the NBA. I think if he puts in the work, if somebody tells him he can't, that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
There isn't like a requirement. It just depends on, I think, his passion. But I also feel like he's got so many other interests that it might lead him to the fashion side of sports or basketball, especially basketball, because he has like a fanatic kind of relationship with basketball.
Okay.
So it's,
there's layers.
Yeah,
there's layers.
There's always things you can do. There's you know, it's not it's not just playing or singing, right? It's a whole industry. But I definitely see the singing being something. I mean, I'd have to kind of like, I think it's going to be up to you.
Yeah.
I think if you push hard enough, you could probably do something big with it. You have a story. You can connect with a lot of people. If you're willing to be like open about it, I really think it's going to help you a lot, because there's a lot of artists coming up, but a lot of them from my vantage point are like their brand is kind of managed by someone.
They're not really like authentic.
Yeah, so they can have a hit maybe. They have that chance, and a lot of them don't. Or they struggle for years and then don't.
Right.
But they don't ever give themselves a chance to like find something special in themselves.
Right.
Especially with something like music. It's hard to artificially create it unless if you're like an amazing music producer and you already know, that's different. That's because you're already an artist in that way.
Right.
You know, but I think if you want a longevity, then you just lean into who you are 100%, tell your story. It's all about story, by the way.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm like thankful for this time in my life to actually connect to myself and not be in survival mode, because I feel like through doing that, I'm just going to grow with my music because I'll be able to express deeper parts of myself that I haven't really connected to yet.
Right.
And that's really my goal with this time in my life, is just to figure out really like the things that I value and the parts of myself that I need to express that I feel might help others, like might connect to others. And not even with the others part, just connect to myself and help myself grow as an individual and in turn inspire other people to grow. Right. So yeah, it's just, I'm young, I'm trying to figure it out, but I have confidence that I will figure it out. And I have confidence, trust in the universe and trust in myself that I'm going to find my path. And it doesn't have to be at a specific time. Ever, like it's gonna happen when it's meant to happen. As long as I continue to be true to myself and take care of myself, everything will happen as it should.
Exactly. And it's like there are steps to this, like you have to like give yourself the time to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
And it's there's no shortcut to this game.
And really like isn't. Some people, and sometimes I like do compare, and then I have to check myself like to stop comparing to other people's journeys, because some people were set up a lot, like they're just set up to be successful, like you know, they came from loving families, they came from money or whatever, and I was just set up in a different way, and
you need time to grow. Still, like for example, people that if you're not ready for the success, then you're not going to take full advantage of it. Most people that win the lottery lose all the money within the first a couple of years, because they didn't know how to manage money. The ones that didn't lose it probably were just middle, or like people that already knew how to manage money, that had money, that happened to win the lottery, and they didn't lose it all. So the point is, like, instead of, you know, playing the lottery, no offense, like if you want to make money, learn to make money, learn to manage money, and when you get there, the money will start flowing. So like the success will come if you stick to, I think, if you stick to your authenticity, which is your North Star. So that way you have this like consistent stream of music that's consistent to your journey, and therefore the most consistent North Star there is. If you start trying to be someone else, or this is trendy, whatever's part of you, you're also getting influenced by other artists. So that's all part of the North Star, which is your authenticity. But if you stay true to that, it's moving organically, and therefore you're moving organically at all times. When somebody's managing your brand too much, like, oh, you need to be more like this, like we need you to be a Spice Girl, or we need you to be. But that's not if that's who you are, great. Like, oh my God, that's what but if it's not like your true, you know, alter ego, then it's not going to work. You got to.
Because you can only play the game for so long until it's like, oh, like bit is up, you know.
Well, I see your brand. I'm just like, as an identity, as a person, if I just, from a business standpoint, I know that you're not thinking of yourself that way, but I really think that's how you make the most of it, is align the brand with the real, genuine person, whatever they are, and let the brand move with you too. Is like singer songwriter, like open, been through a lot of stuff. Even your journey right now, which is fresh, like, you know, making music that reflects what you're going through will probably connect with a lot of people too. Even this, you talking about it and others going, oh my God, like, because you don't look like you're going, you don't look like you're going through anything, you know, like right now. Right? Because of how positive and like up you are. So like, I really appreciate you sharing. I didn't realize. I had another friend that just, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to reveal anything, but like that just kind of got out of a situation that I really didn't know. And oh my God, and I feel like that's kind of where I was too. And it's like, man, it's like when you're not being yourself, it's like it's a mental prison.
It really is.
And it's worse than a physical prison, because at least you could dig out of the physical one with a spoon, but when you have mental prisons, you can be anywhere with that prison.
Yeah, you can be on a yacht.
Yeah, you can't get away.
Hawaii, and it's like doesn't matter, you know. But yeah, it's been a really, really rough year for me. Like going back to like my childhood, I grew up with my grandma, and she really provided for us, for me and my sister. And then I'm the oldest of 6. I have one full sister, and then I have a brother and a sister on my dad's side, and a brother and a sister on my mom's side. Who are young. They're 7 and 8 on my mom's side. So it's really interesting. Me and my youngest sister have the same age gap as me and my mom.
Wow.
So it's really like weird, but so I've always felt like a mom, because me and my closest sister in age, her name's Annalise, we grew up together and went through like a lot of emotional abuse, and we're just around a lot of domestic abuse in our family, in our home. And I really had to care for her and myself, because we're 6 years apart, you know. And then my youngest sister on my dad's side is 14, so she was a baby when all of that was going on. So there were times where I had to like go into the room while my dad and his partner were literally like fist fighting each other, grab the baby, lock me and all my other sisters in my room, and then call the police. And I was like 11 years old, and that was like a constant thing. So growing up in that environment really like affected me in deeper ways that I didn't realize until being an adult. I was like, oh, I've gotten into all these like relationships that were really bad because I was running away from things, and like toxic situations and abuse felt like home, you know. And then so my grandma raised me. Going back, sorry, I'm going all over the place, but my grandma was really the only stable parent in my life, and she always treated me like a daughter. And it's really weird calling her my grandma, because she's always been my mom. And like whenever I needed school supplies, whenever I needed to go on a trip with school, whenever I needed anything, it was always her that provided. It was never my dad. Sometimes my mom, like my biological mom, would come through and like help us with groceries or something. But my grandmother passed away this year from COVID very suddenly, where I always viewed her. How old?
How old was she?
63.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's so healthy. She was so healthy before. But this past year, there was also a lot of like abuse and like toxicity going on in the home, which stressed her out. And I feel like ultimately that was the cause, is like she was already going through a lot mentally, that her body just could not fight off the virus. You know, she was under a lot of pressure, and she was in the hospital for 3 weeks. So I didn't get to say goodbye to her or anything. And she was the parent that raised me. And that was really, really, really tough, because after that, my dad kind of went crazy, like in a way, and we really butted heads. And he's also on drugs still to this day. So it was really hard to be in a home where she was the only protector, and she was like the one who would keep the balance. So once she was gone, all hell broke loose in that home. And my dad kind of just tried to take over everything. And I'm not the one to sit down and be silent. I've never been. So me and my dad butt heads a lot, because he's very like, you will listen to me, I'm the parent. And I'm like, just like, respect is given where it's earned. Right. You don't get to demand that. And I'm not going to give you respect just because you demand it, because what have you done in my life to show me that that you deserve 100. My respect, right?
100.
So
the age doesn't matter at all. People like to use their age, like that's, or their title.
Right. And I'm like, okay.
It doesn't have to work like that. If you let it, but if you say no.
Right. And I've always been the one, like, even when my grandma was being like emotionally abused, I would be the one to step up and be like, this is not okay, and you don't get to do this. So I've always been the one in the house that was like kind of the protector of everyone, because I'm the one who would stand up, and I'm the one who would be like, this is not okay. And it took a lot of me mentally and emotionally, because I had to stand up for my sister. I had to stand up for myself, as hard as that was, because I was always being shot down constantly growing up, shot down constantly. So the confidence I have now was because I really had to push through all of those mental blocks and that mental programming, that I wasn't worth things, that I didn't deserve happiness, that I didn't deserve stability. And this is really the first time in my life that I've been able to accomplish that for myself. So I'm going through like a lot of transitions, and just trying to be grateful. So this past year has probably been one of the wildest of my entire life. And like I have a tattoo now.
Like for a lot of us, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
For
love
a
to
lot
hear.
of us.
Yeah.
For a lot of us. But personally.
Everyone I've been interviewing, sort of, or everyone in my circle, immediate to like the outer 2 layers, maybe, like people we're working with, talking to, a lot of the podcast guests are on this like tipping point. I feel like for me, the dam is kind of broken in terms of not money, like
right.
yet, but like things are lining up. Things are starting to like pick up steam, and confidence is at a certain level where you just kind of feel like, okay,
you just keep going.
You just keep
you
going.
build
That's
on
the
it.
key.
It's a snowball.
Right. Snowball effect.
Right.
Once you get to a certain point. And a lot of people I know are hitting their stride right now.
Yeah.
Or finding their freedom.
It's collective.
Yeah. And it's good to have a network of people. You got to protect that network a little bit too, and like, welcome people that want to learn, but you have to like
also,
not be dragged down when you're
discernment.
trying to get, because we're still leveling up too. I'm not
Right.
at like a, I'm not like meaning, just to say this, for example, I feel like with figuring yourself out and getting your shit together comes often financial success too.
Right.
So when I'm still turning this big ship that I started going down the wrong path with my career because I didn't love it, that's hard to do with kids.
Yeah.
But like it's starting to shift. When I get to a certain level, I will be a lot more likely to let people into my life that I want to help.
Right.
That may not be 100% ready, but I'm willing to like, really put the effort. Right now, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to turn the ship.
Yeah.
And
that's just having discernment.
Take care of yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like get your oxygen mask, get your oxygen first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Build yourself up for your siblings.
Right.
Just because you can't help them now, it's kind of like you don't just run off to war. You first build up the army, train the army, get them prepared, mentally prepared, physically prepared. And that's kind of what you're doing. Like getting your career going, figuring yourself out, getting stronger, getting rest. So that if you do need to go to battle when that time comes, or you need to take one of them on because they get older or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Who knows what happens? Get your platform going and then use that to maybe we help you figure something out.
Yeah.
Right? Is
Right.
there? I don't know. Have you looked into it? You don't have to talk about it, but I'm just curious.
Sorry, say that question again.
To help your sibling situation too.
Right now, I'm trying to accept that like as a young adult and as them being minors, like there's not much that I am able to do. But I know that we have family that really care about us, and I know that it's okay to ask for help, and that I don't always have to take everything on.
Right.
Because that's been kind of a negative habit that I took on.
That's what I'm saying. You can't right now.
Yeah, and also like growing up having to rely on myself. That's just the habit that I took on. Is like I have to do I'm like hyper independent, and I had to come to accept that it's okay to ask for help. Because 9 times out of 10, like people want to help you because they love you, and it's not because you're in need or it's not like a negative thing to need help,
Especially if you have good intentions and you believe in yourself, and if you do, that means that you're gonna pay it back tenfold when the time comes.
And that's the thing is like I know that people want to lend a helping hand to me because in turn I'm gonna help people when it comes down, like when I'm in the place to be able to do that.
Exactly.
That's my intention, is to be in a place where I can help others, to be in a place where I can guide others. And that's always been my intention. I've been through things that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And
Can you share some of the hardest things, or you don't have to.
I'm trying to think of like a specific thing. There's just a lot of like memories that flood back. But I think really just having to be alone so much as a kid and being like neglected in a way, and like having to witness so much abuse. And I know I am still working on like having grace towards my dad, because I know that he also didn't have the best childhood, and he is doing the best that he can and dealing with things that we don't even know about because he won't talk about them, you know? And I know that he's not a bad person. He's just a lost person.
Right.
And
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I love him from afar.
Right.
you know, and I love him from a distance the best way that I can.
Yeah. I have the same situation, just so you know.
Yes.
With my dad. It's always off and on because he's just, and some of it's me in my case. I will take a lot of responsibility for not being able to just always keep a level head and letting certain things get to me. But it's a very challenging situation, and he doesn't owe me anything.
Yeah.
But I also don't owe him anything.
Right.
And if it's not a positive situation, I don't really put much on labels. As much as I would love for it to be a better relationship, and it might be down the road. Like right now, it's what it is because that's what it is. And I'm not allowing people in my life that aren't
not supportive
going to be like overall like positive. As much as I want it to work out, which I'm not saying it won't. For the record, if he's watching,
I know.
Honest that
my dad's watching.
He doesn't need me to come to him. He's the type to like go take it to his grave. He's very stubborn.
Yep.
He doesn't talk. He didn't talk to his sister for 7 years. He didn't talk to my aunt for. Still not talking to her. He's not talking to my brother right now. He's not talking. There's probably like a dozen people. He's not. It's a cycle of.
And at that point, you do what you can.
Yeah.
And because like a relationship is two-sided, and that's what I've had to come to accept, because I've tried multiple times throughout my life to try and mend my relationship with my father. But if he's not willing to show up, it's never going to work. And
it's not his fault, like you said. They are abused. My dad was extremely, in my opinion, I'm not a psychologist, but mentally, emotionally, and physically abused heavily. And his parents were religious. My grandparents were religious, but him being like kind of a hoodlum, like in their eyes, because he would get into a lot of street fights. He always got good grades. He was an athlete, but always got into fights and got into mischief. And they would just beat the crap out of him and call him like the worst of things, to thinking that would turn him like, you good for nothing. You're a thief. You're just a criminal. And like that will wear on a parent. So then they pass it on to you.
Right. And
he was probably better than they were. So and he was there for me, and he wasn't an alcoholic. And that's confusing because I didn't really understand the problem, unfortunately, until I was like 30 plus. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that kind of messed me up, that I was like, yeah, that's what you got to be. You got to be the tough. You got to like show them who's boss.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah, I understand.
It took me a long time to let go of that because it wasn't working. Not the way I wanted relationship. I'm like my mom in terms of the relationships I want with people. But then I thought, as a man, you're supposed to pretend you don't want to talk to them, killing me inside. But I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
But really, I'm like, I want to talk to you.
You had to
like,
reprogram.
I miss you or whatever.
Yeah, and it's okay to be soft.
Yeah.
It's okay to be vulnerable.
Cannoli has a bite and a bark, but he likes to be petted, man. We all want the same thing. We all want to be loved, and when we don't get it, we resort to like defending ourselves with anger,
guarded,
abuse.
Yeah. And see, but I want to go back to like, it's not his fault. I believe
it doesn't mean you let it go though.
Right.
I
no.
believe in
and
putting people in rehabilitation situations too.
Yeah. But I also believe that it's not his fault to an extent, because my dad also endured a lot of abuse as a kid, and like both my parents did, but so did I as a kid, and I alchemized that, and I'm trying to be a better person, and
luckily
I feel like
for you.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
But I feel like it's okay to also hold people accountable, because you're an adult.
100%.
And it's like a lot of people in their lives have gone through trauma, and they're not out here like scamming people, and it might take him his entire life to wake up, but it's like, it's been a struggle for me to be like, okay, it's not his fault, but also as an adult, you have to take responsibility for your own emotional reactions and your own healing and your own growth, and take responsibility for how you grow and how you treat people.
Yes.
And it's like, you can't keep perpetuating those cycles, and I'm not going to keep making excuses for you just because you were abused as a kid. Like, so was I.
Exactly.
And it's
the fault thing. Can I be clear?
Yes.
This is so important. So important, because the fault thing is purely from the abused standpoint, to not carry all this anger with you,
right.
to go, hey, they're fucked up. But that doesn't mean you don't take action.
Yeah.
Like, things got heated with my dad.
Yeah.
And I had to like physically like stand up and defend myself. I felt, And I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
As much as I go, it's not your fault that I'm gonna have to defend myself physically right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I will definitely, if somebody were to do anything to somebody I love that isn't approved, I guess, or whatever, or something that's consensual,
Right.
or healthy. As much as I would not judge the person for their abuse, I would take swift action if I could to stop it, get them help, get them rehab, if they need to go to prison, whoever that is, if that's what it takes.
Right.
So it's definitely not about accountability. The accountability for sure has to be on the parents, but it's more about the judgment and holding grudges. There's no need. With my dad, as much as I got upset at the time, I look at it like this is not an offense. I think of it as a mental illness, an emotional illness.
Right.
Where it's the way you might have a really bad leg or bad back, their mental state, their mindset is a crutch in a way that they can't have healthy conversations. They can't allow someone to express their opinion. So I don't, so I look at it hey, he's got a condition that might have been onset by environment. And so I can have a relationship with him to a point.
Right.
But as soon as that escalates beyond, then I'm going to take myself out and love him from a distance, just like you said.
Right. Yeah, it's a journey for sure. And it's something that I'm working on, because I definitely feel like I've grown up holding on to a lot of anger and a lot of just pure rage.
Me too.
At my situation, but also at the situation that my siblings were in, at the situation that my grandma was in, and really taking on all of that anger from everyone else too. And just it's been a struggle to sit with it and let it go and let it be for what it is, and hold space for that part of myself, but also not let it have power over me.
Right. Consume you. So music has to be the vehicle here.
Yes.
Right now. And maybe like you said about relationships and opportunity, I think this way too, that things serve a purpose and they're always beautiful.
Right.
If I have a 2-minute conversation with someone, I don't go, oh, well, that was a waste of time.
No.
That would be so limiting. But your music right now is part of your therapy, part of your journey. And I can see it helping millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
That might be in a situation that they, maybe don't know how to get out of or don't know to get out of. You know what I mean? What is the song that you had put out recently? Can you talk about your music? Let's plug your music a little bit too, because
for sure.
To me, the story is everything, like I said, and I'm the type of person I want to hear, especially a singer-songwriter, if I understand where her head's at.
Yeah. So music has always been the healer for me. It's always been the way that I process emotion. And it's really interesting. Sometimes I'll be writing songs about a situation that I haven't even experienced yet, and I'm just channeling. And I'm writing and I'm I don't really know what I'm writing about, but these words make sense. And then a few months later, it'll be oh, that's why I wrote that song.
And it would happen to you?
Yeah. It'll happen to me, or it'll just make sense a few minutes later, or not minutes, but a few months later. But so music has always been the way that I process things.
Yes.
And it's funny when sometimes I'll write a song and not fully be aware of my own emotions. And then in retrospect, looking back and saying oh yeah, I was really struggling at that time.
Right.
I didn't even know it. And listening to this song that I wrote at that time, it makes sense.
Got it.
And I have a lot of music that I haven't released yet. So I feel I barely started taking myself seriously as a recording artist in 2020. So I have a lot of music to come that I just haven't released yet. But so far what's out, my recent song is called Fix You. And the chorus is I can't fix you. And it's kind of a mantra for me, releasing an attachment that I had to someone.
It's not your job.
It's not my job to fix someone. And also it's not.
Won't play a game, baby. Sorry.
It's not anyone's job to fix anyone.
Nope.
And also the word. And looking back, like I don't completely resonate with the message anymore. I did, and at the time that I wrote the song after a really horrible breakup. I was literally laying in bed crying for like 8 hours, and I put on like a YouTube beat and I just wrote the song. And it's really interesting, like the words just flowed out of me, and that's how I felt in that moment. But now looking back at like the word fix, like no one can be fixed. We're always growing and we're always healing, and I don't resonate with that message completely anymore.
Right.
But it's still authentic to how I was feeling in that moment.
Exactly.
And it's still authentic, I'm sure, to how someone else is feeling in certain situations.
Like you don't
know?
go back and change a painting because you go, oh, I like using this type of brush now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the painting that represents the artist's mind and innovation and feeling at that moment when you wrote it. It has to be that.
Right.
And it'll resonate with somebody else, and then maybe that person later will evolve past the fix it thing, but it's kind of catchy though.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Like fix it is a catchier way to say it.
Yeah. And
then
so,
like, if I can't force you to evolve.
Exactly.
It's not as, like, doesn't roll
it
off
doesn't,
the tongue.
exactly. It's not as easily received, you know?
Because it is like still art form. You could be a little more. I think I know what you mean though.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your job to like force somebody to learn.
Right. And it's just like,
But people can change. Can I be clear about
Yeah,
that? Because people
of
say
course.
that's also another excuse to not change, to say you can't change someone. I can't change you, but you could
But you
change
can
you
change,
for
yeah.
sure, because change comes from learning. If I learned 2 + 2 is 4, I done changed.
Yeah.
Now I know some math.
Right.
So
and
I'm
and
changed.
even with that song, like I couldn't fix that person, but all I can hope is like through our experience and through our relationship that they learned a lesson, and now they're doing the work to heal themselves.
Right.
And
exactly.
and even in the like bridge, I say like I'll love you from far away, because I'm always gonna send them love.
It's a beautiful message.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah. Like, because you're not saying F you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people usually say when they don't want you in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have been feeling that way a lot about people. Like, I
Yeah.
actually came to a realization maybe 4 or 5 years ago that I never thought of it this way, that I love everyone.
Yeah.
I just don't like everyone.
Right.
And I don't necessarily want to be around everyone.
Right.
I don't want to even be, sometimes, like, what if you love someone, but they just have this thing where they just have a bat in their hand and they always like hit the person to the left, sometimes to the right. It's just what they do. It's not because they hate you.
Mm-hmm.
You're still not going to sit next to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't
Right.
care how much you love them. You're going to be like, look, love you. You know, I think about you, but
From a distance, for
That's it.
sure. And I like to think about it too, as like we're all part of the same source. So it's like the more that I love myself, the more that I love other people. And it's the deeper I can go with myself, the deeper I can go with other people. And like the more open I am with myself, the more open I am with other people.
Right.
Because we're all connected to the same source. At least that's what I believe, you know. And so
It's a beautiful, like, I think it's a beautiful philosophy because
Mm-hmm.
it creates positive energy. And then I think through that positive energy, people are just positive back.
right.
When you're
It's
feeling,
reflections.
when you're feeling gratitude, it's like kind of a known thing right now. Everyone always talks about gratitude, but when you really get yourself in a state of gratitude, you're happier and people sense that.
Yeah.
When you're in a
And it's
state of like,
reflected back
fuck
at you.
everyone, everyone's taking my shit, then you're like, then people are like, who the hell is that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and
comes
it's
across.
like goes back to the idea of like you create your own reality, and
Right.
that's obviously like taken lightly because I didn't create my own abuse as a kid, you know. But if you change your perception, those
How about you
things
could
are,
recreate your own reality?
yeah, that's
You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
when you're 4, you start waking up. That's
Yeah.
when you really awake the first time.
Mhm.
But to a blank, well, actually, no. You wake up around 3 or 4, like your first memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're like consciously now remembering shit and being like, oh, wait, I'm alive.
yeah,
Like, this is like a life. I'm part of something, right? You don't know what yet, but it's not a blank slate. It's whatever the fuck was scribbled on that thing for the
Right.
first 3 or 4 years. And then that's when you like open your eyes, wake up consciously and start kind of being conscious in your living. Although you don't know what the hell this world is.
Right.
All you know is you got these people that feed you, you rely on them. And if they're like, they've got issues, you don't necessarily know to compare it to anything else.
right.
So
And-
it's totally normal to wake up someday, even if you're 30 like me, to go, maybe he didn't have it all figured out, honestly. Because I started going, man, my relationship isn't going the way I thought. I always told myself theirs was great, even though they yelled a lot. But I'm like, well, that's what you do. Now I realize, no offense, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really want to hear it, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he could have been. I'm not saying there wasn't love, but some of it could have been done from a distance. But it was hard, man.
Yeah.
And probably mostly, and my dad will probably say it first because of him, because he was like the same problems I had in my relationships passed on to me. I just got lucky, I think. Like you said, well, how come I turned it around? Really, we got lucky. Let's be honest. Like, if our parents, it doesn't take away the accountability. I'm still not going to be around that. See, I hold them accountable. I just go, hey, don't judge too quickly that he didn't figure it out. I got lucky. I like however my marriage turned out, I was able to like break free from that, let's say. And then I was lucky enough to live in a time where there's these books. And I ran into I made a friend that was a motivational speaker. And I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I do life coaching. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I was like 34.
Okay.
And then I didn't know about these, like, I never looked into these mindset things, Tony Robbins. To me, that was all BS.
Yeah.
So I was totally just closed, like, la, 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 shut up. I got this. I'm good. I got 3 kids. I'm good. I got a good career. It was all a facade, except for my love for my kids.
Right.
But everything else, the job, the career was built on toothpicks that were going to fall apart at any time. I was getting burned out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
because it was a shortcut to money, like get an accounting degree, get a job, versus go find yourself, bro.
Yeah.
Without a safety net.
Yeah. And
like, don't go back to college right now until college serves you 100%.
Right.
Make college like serve you. Go do music, work for someone if you need to make money. To learn from there and let them mentor you if they're a music producer or whatever, or or whatever it is, whatever team you're going to be part of. From that, if you need to go get a degree, you go. But I feel like it's not the right move right now.
Right now, yeah. I feel like I've learned so much being outside of school, just from life experiences and really putting myself out there. And also, like, nowadays, there's YouTube University.
School, you're not it anymore, man. You're not it. I'm just putting you in your rightful place as an option.
Right.
Sorry. You ain't the golden bridge.
It's not the golden ticket.
Golden brick road?
Yellow brick road?
Yellow brick road.
Yeah.
The Golden Gate Bridge and the Yellow Brick Road, if they had a baby, you would not be that baby.
Right. And
you're just an option.
It's definitely like reprogramming my mind, because you grow up, and especially for me, I was the first generation college student. So it was like this huge thing. No, well, like, I'm saying that they overhyped that.
Right.
Because they make it seem like, oh, you're first generation, you're amazing, this and that. And I'm like, no, like, I don't know if that's a good thing that
you're
like,
amazing, yeah. But what if you were amazing doing the thing you actually have passion for? If you really thought you were amazing, you don't really think you're amazing, because if you thought you were amazing, wouldn't that be the thing you're like super passionate about? Well, not that. You're not that amazing at that thing, but if you were to get like, a nice administrative job or something like that, then you could be amazing there. Why? Why would I be amazing there and not here? Doing the thing that I'm passionate about, that I'm going to put in twice the efforts. You know what I mean? Naturally.
You're spilling water
You're
on
good. Spill away. It's hot, so.
Yeah, it is really hot. This water is like warm just from sitting out here.
I know. And it was in the little, I don't think the fridge is doing much anymore.
Oh, at this point,
no, it's an indoor fridge.
It's pretty, so.
We tried.
It's okay. It's water.
They say you shouldn't drink cold water.
Yeah, well, warm water is better for your digestion.
Right? There you go. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for looking out for me.
Right. I'm just looking out for your digestive system. That's all.
Thanks.
So go back to the music. You were talking about Fix It.
Fix. And now I'm like, wait, I spilled on myself. I'm like,
make yourself comfortable.
So Fix You. Yeah. So I released that.
Fix It.
I wrote that song so long ago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, in November of 2019 is when I actually wrote the song. And that song itself went through so many different evolutions, like demo to like a final track. Then I was like, no, take that down. Like, that's not a final track.
Right.
To like, took it to another producer. So many like different versions after that. And it's like my struggle as an artist, which I know that a lot of artists can relate to, is I'm such a perfectionist, and I realize that like it doesn't matter if it's perfect, it just has to be authentic for people to connect to.
Right.
And that's okay, you know. So the song Fix You is just about that breakup that I went through, that relationship where I realized that like I was kind of focusing on somebody else's problems to distract myself from my own. And I was trying to help this person when I realized that I couldn't even help myself. And that was a really hard realization to come to,
Right.
because it forced me to really reflect on myself and like, well, what do I have to deal with to like make sure that I don't get in these situations again? And that was really, really difficult. But I think that song was a vehicle to like process that emotion and really reflect.
Well, what's exciting is that it's really been just a month since you've like experienced this level of freedom in your life. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, like the music that's going to come out now, because this is like the new, are you writing music now?
Not at the moment. I mean, I'm always writing. Oh, like, you know, in the shower, in the car, like just little
ideas.
things. Yeah, I'm constantly writing, but not very intentionally, where I know that I'm resting a lot and I'm like taking care of myself, but I know that I want to be able to like dive into myself a little bit more and then sit down and intentionally write about that instead of just writing whatever.
Right, and rushing through the process.
Right.
That's cool, exciting. So that's something to look forward to.
Right, yeah. And I want to come out with a project eventually. It's just really hard, like as an independent artist, to like find the resources, and even as an independent artist, know how to go about marketing and know how to go about like even putting together a project. Like no one teaches you this. And I've watched a lot of YouTube videos and thankful to have like a lot of more established artist friends.
Yeah. Try to collaborate with people you really believe in, like that are good, that you know, pass your test.
Yeah. And that's
I was thinking art therapy. You know, Jason doing art therapy, and then you want to do music therapy. That's it sounds like a natural project right there. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying project as far as like an EP or like an album or something.
Collaborating with other artists.
Yeah. And even so, my friend Red, or his name's Brian, but he goes by Red Hot. He's the one who produced Fix You, and he's an amazing producer, and he's also just like a really awesome human, and just like a great person. Red Hot,
Nice. Shout out to Red Hot.
Shout out to Red Hot. Shout out to Brian. Like,
hey. If people are still listening, then hey. They want the shout outs.
Yeah, of course. But
how do people follow you, by the way, just since we're on that topic?
At Jess Roman _ on Instagram. That's the best way to connect.
And then that has like links.
Links to, and I'm on Spotify, Jess Roman, JessRoman. People always ask me if that's an artist name, and I'm like, no,
it's a great name.
That's my name.
Roman is a very strong name.
Yeah, it's like Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad is Mexican and Puerto Rican. My mom's Mexican. And I've been trying to like connect to my roots a little more because I grew up in California and I feel like I'm very removed from them.
Yeah. Have you gone back?
I haven't. Right. I've never been to Puerto Rico. I know I have family there that I've never met.
That's going to be on your tour one day.
Yeah.
You're going to have a stop in Puerto Rico.
Well, even if it's not on a tour, I think one of my goals in life is definitely to travel as much as I can because I lived in Barcelona for 2 months in 2018, and I was doing an internship, and I was working at a Montessori school, and at the school is called Aqua. Beautiful experience because at that Montessori school they centered their education around emotional intelligence and the pedagogy of talent. So they taught all of the kids about emotion, and the way that they interact with the kids was just it's something that I'd never seen before, and an idea that I've never even come across. How beautiful it is to teach 5-year-olds what anger is and how to express that and how to deal with that, you know. And
all of elementary should be emotional intelligence and basic skills.
Basic skills, yeah. So I was there helping.
Crazy that's not part of our curriculum.
Yes.
Test. Like really? Is
For
it that
what?
important? Manage
what?
your relationships, manage your anger,
Yeah.
communicate to get what you want, how to balance your checkbook, credit, how to manage your credit so you don't fuck up your credit.
Shout out to my grandma for teaching me how to manage my credit,
You know what I'm
because I
saying?
have a
Like,
great credit score, and I'm like,
see?
thank you,
Now you
grandma.
can, that's a stepping stone to something better. You know,
Yeah.
that somebody would have had to learn because school doesn't teach you.
No, I know.
That's what I'm saying.
And
School ain't it. You got to take matters into your own hands. Even as a, don't wait till you're 18, by the way. Like, kids shouldn't wait till they're 18 to figure out their passion.
yeah.
Or to even start a business or make money or hustle or
And that's what I
your
always tell my
future.
sisters, and I always try
Yeah.
to ground them in a way, and like and guide them into really focusing on themselves.
Right.
And I try and teach them about credit and like stuff like that. You know, it's really funny because I'm 23, but I feel like I've been a mom since I was 11. Like,
they should open their eyes to whatever opportunities are there,
Yeah.
if any.
right.
Don't just focus on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And I try to be supportive.
Right.
It's a really interesting experience though, separating like sister
Right.
relationship from mom relationship.
Right.
Sometimes I got to be like, okay, I'm actually not your mom, so I need to relax.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right.
But I
You
wouldn't
kinda
have
need
it.
to be their friend now.
Sometimes,
Because
yeah.
you're not in the house.
Right.
So they can come to you without feeling like you're going to, punish them or something.
Yeah, and I like to think that we have that relationship already.
awesome.
Like my sister is very open with me, and they know that like I'd be supportive, and I just try to be there for them the best that I know how,
Right.
and the best way that I can.
Awesome.
But it's been a very, very interesting experience because I know that I'm not their mom, but sometimes I'm like, don't do that, or like,
Sure.
what are you doing? You know, and it's been
Well-
interesting trying to like separate that.
Right.
But also reflecting on like my relationship with my mom. It's taken some time to even have a relationship with her, and she's only 15 years older than me. So
Right.
it's more like an older sister relationship than it is
Yeah,
a
and I
mother-daughter
wouldn't try to
relationship.
like worry about labeling your relationship with your siblings. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Forget about the words. Like,
Yeah.
you are their friend, mentor. You feel like you want to help them. So guardian, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
who cares? And you giving them advice is good.
Yeah.
You just probably like, I know to be careful how I give advice to my kids so I don't lose them. Because if I come down on them too much, they're not gonna come to me next time. So that's all. That's so you got
It's
it.
a journey.
And I gotta say that I'm like so like impressed with how together you are in general.
Thank you.
Like your positive outlook on things.
Thank you.
It's almost hard to believe, like because you've been through so much at such a young age. Like you are like I'm 47 twice. And I feel like you're thinking already, like a lot of things you say, those are the things I've come to understand in the last 10 years.
Oh wow.
We all have our different paths.
Yeah.
Not all of us learn as quickly or maybe break free as quickly. I was part of the flood of whatever life was. I wasn't taking charge of my life. I was just kind of like, oh, go to college. Okay. Pick a major. All right. I probably should get married. Okay. Probably should have kids. Okay. I mean, I didn't want to have kids. I always wanted to have kids, but
Right.
so that's okay.
Yeah.
Do what you want. But other than that, I was just
Going
with the flow in a bad way. Going with the flow, like, hey, something bad happens, go turn it into a positive. That's going with
Right.
the flow.
Right.
Not
right,
like
right.
just bobbing like and letting life dictate what
Like
happens to
complacent.
you. You have
way.
the power to like, recreate.
Yeah,
wherever
and
you're going.
It's been a journey for sure, and
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I have as much of like abusive relationships I've experienced, not just like romantic relationships like with my father and like things like that. I've also experienced really beautiful relationships and like have had a lot of people in my life that were very supportive and like loved me in ways that I needed in those moments. And I feel very thankful for that and very blessed that I still had that support in my life, even though I was going through so much in other areas of my life. And I do feel like I have it together a lot more than like people that I know, but I still don't have it together, you
It's
know.
a practice.
And it's a practice. And I'm just thankful for like my friends and family that have supported me this far. And I never would have gotten here without them. So I don't
Right.
like to be like, yeah, I'm strong. And that, like, it was a collective, it's a community effort to really
Right.
bring people out of
You
those
can't
kinds of
count on
things.
any one person. That's the truth. But having people to support you is so powerful.
Right.
So it's not, like I don't, we want people around us. It's just, you don't want to need anyone in particular.
Yeah, exactly.
So that if they can't be what you want, then you're not tied down. That's all.
Right.
Was there like anything that happened specifically to get you over the hump where you were like, that's it, I'm taking charge? And like the 2 years ago, like when you kind of got on your journey, was there anything specific that pushed you over the edge? Like a book you read, someone's advice, or you just got to like a tipping point on your own over time because of age?
I think a little. So after like experiencing Barcelona and like living outside of the country and outside of
Was
the
that like a
home,
student program that you got involved in?
Yeah, it was like outside of my school. It was a program that I found online.
Okay.
And it wasn't connected, like the credits weren't even going to transfer to my school because they wouldn't, I don't know why. But I applied, like it was like the last day to apply. And I was like, I'll just apply, like whatever. Did not really think that I was going to be able to go. And then I got accepted. And then I like wrote some essays and got accepted for financial aid. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm on a plane now to Barcelona. Wow. And I like didn't know anyone. And I was just like, okay, like, here I go. And that really and I met so many beautiful people there, so many beautiful souls like that I connected with, and like my boss that I worked with. I made 2 of my closest friends that were living in Barcelona at the time. And that really like changed my outlook on myself, where I was like, okay, I can do things like for myself, and I can go out there and I can experience the world, and I could be resilient, and I can figure things out even in another country by myself.
Right.
So, and like I did get homesick, and I went through like a short, like depressive episode while I was out there. And I realized that like, you can't run away from your problems, because even my family problems that I was running away from, like followed me to Barcelona, and I was stressed out while I was thousands of miles away, you know. And it made me open up my eyes to think that, or to see that like I need to deal with things and not just run away from them. So after that, 2018, I came back, and I feel like as much as I don't like this, it is a part of like my journey, is like the romantic relationships that I've been in really showed me deep parts of myself that I had to heal, and like really reflected to me how deep the emotional trauma growing up like affected me, and the way that I carry myself, not only in romantic relationships, but like my friendships and platonic relationships. So this last relationship that I was in was extremely toxic, and in a way, like I know that I contributed a lot to that, because I wasn't fully aware of like the abuse that I was accepting, and also the abuse that I was giving, and the ways that I didn't know how to communicate, and the ways that I expected certain things that are kind of unrealistic. And it's just like, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Can you give examples? I know where you're going with it.
It's like, well, I do know.
Like, how come you didn't call me? How could, like, maybe controlling things? Maybe, I mean, is there specific things that?
Yeah. So with this person,
because it might be something different than what people are thinking. Everyone's thinking their own thing,
because they've all, it's like
things.
their own
experiences. So they're
relating
with their own, but like, what are things that you did or that were?
Yeah, for me.
What does that mean that you were, unhealthy or toxic?
Yeah.
Yelling, putting the person down. What's your problem?
A lot of back and forth. I love you. I hate you. I love you. I hate you. A lot of like.
Because you weren't getting what you expected from them.
Yeah.
You weren't nice to me. You didn't say this. You didn't hold the door. You didn't whatever you thought, right? I mean, that's what happened to me too.
Yeah.
I had these expectations of like, this is what someone with me is supposed to do, and if they don't, what's up with that?
Right.
Or you don't love me, or you put a lot on that's what you're taught, to be codependent.
Codependency is a huge thing that I had to.
I've gone full circle,
deconstruct. Man. Yeah, and it's
Zero
still something.
codependency as much as possible.
Yeah,
partnership
is it's still something that I'm learning and healing from, and deprogramming. Like reprogramming my brain.
Let's talk.
Yeah,
I'm open.
Well, in this situation, I definitely realized that what it means to like bond over trauma. And like
common trauma,
and it's not
and
always
slip back into a comfortable rhythm.
Yeah, and I realized that I don't always want to connect with someone over trauma because for so long I identified so heavily with my pain, where I didn't feel like it was separate from me. I felt like I always had to be in pain to be alive. Like I never was able to separate my own personal identity from like what I've been through.
Right.
So in that relationship, like he had also been through a lot of trauma. And I was like, oh, I see you. You see me. Like, I love you.
Right.
This and that. And it was a lot of undealt with trauma on both ends where we were kind of like filling a void with each other. And we were both running away from our problems by running into each other. And then when it wasn't working, we'd run away. And then we run back. And then we run away. And it was very unstable and it felt like home. So I just kept going back. And I kept being like, oh, yeah, like I know you love me and this and that. And it's like,
and instead of being alone, you got this exciting, like, you know,
just burst
like
of passion.
Burst of passion, the ups, the downs, the I hate you, I love you, I thought I lost you forever.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel alive.
And
it's better than being alone. I mean, that's what people like us went through at a young age. I was like that too, like codependent, afraid to be alone.
And it's like you get addicted to the stress.
Yeah.
You get addicted to the feeling of being
it's
and it's like when you're unsure, you're like addicted to that feeling. Like it's like feeling comfortable is like it used to be unsafe for me.
Right.
Where it's like,
wrong.
wait, something's wrong. Where it's like if something is healthy and there's no problems, I'm like something is about to explode.
Because
and it would be anxious.
We become the things we do. You know, and it, like even if you're kidnapped and you're living with your assailant for long enough, you start becoming dependent on them too.
Right.
That you have to like know to trick your brain to step back and go, what is happening here? Stockholm syndrome is real, man. And it happens in relationships all the time.
Yeah.
Parent-child relationships are Stockholm syndrome relationships. Think about it. You're like, especially when it's an abusive situation, you become dependent on that. Like you want their love. So when they get mad at you, you're like, oh my God, what do I do to get your love again? They feed you. It's like the worst kind of Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. You know? And we get used to that. Then we do take that to our relationships.
And it was a really crazy, realization that I had because for so long, like when I was with that person, I'm like, oh yeah. Cause you know how they say that like you'll subconsciously look for your parents and your partners.
Yeah.
I was like, never, I'm never gonna look for my father.
He doesn't look anything like my father.
He doesn't act like him, this and that. Like, yeah, never. And then after we broke up later, I was like, oh my God, like you're just like my dad. And it was really weird. Like it was a really like hard realization to come to because I'm like, dang, like, and I still allowed you into my life for so long. But it also made me realize like, I keep saying like, I need to stop saying that. And also totally, like, yeah, I'm totally from California, dude. No, just kidding.
Hey, you caught yourself. That's, I didn't even, but yeah, we all do it.
But
you should do a count.
A count, yeah. Every just
ding, 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 ding.
But it made me at least like again. I'm grateful for that experience because it made me realize or be aware of what signs to look for next time.
Right.
And it's just a learning experience. And that hurt so it was a really hurtful learning experience. It definitely sent me into like a huge spiral and probably one of the deepest depressions I've ever been in. But I'm grateful for it anyway because I know that like I learned those things, so I'm never gonna go back to that.
We kind of talk about like life is the perfect teacher in a way.
Yes.
Like, it'll brutally show you if there's any weaknesses you might have. It'll come through in a relationship. And I used to think like, oh, that happened to me. But if you really are honest with yourself, it's like an opportunity to go, how do I not let that happen? Because you allowed it to happen.
I did.
You allowed yourself to be with you don't have to in the future. And it's not about blaming. It's about, I could have stood up for myself. I could have said, hey, this isn't working. But at the time, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. I want to be clear about that. There's no regretting.
Right.
Now, you might be ready now because of the experience. At the time, you didn't have that. So it's silly to go, I should have. No, you shouldn't have. You should have done what you did.
Yeah.
That's all you knew. So, but what's good is you learned from it. And now you're like, hey, I don't want that in my life anymore.
Right. And it's definitely, I'm thankful for the experience because I wouldn't have known any other way. And
That's it.
And I feel like those lessons that you need to learn, the universe is always going to throw them back at you again until you finally learn.
Right.
And they throw me. And even after that experience, I had other experiences where I had to walk away from them because I was like, okay, I've been through this before. I'm not going to go through it again.
And learning means then doing something about it. Like, it's not like, oh, yeah, that happened. What are you going to do to do something different next time? Whether that's, I'm not going to, when I see those kind of signs, because you have to look back and go, what was it? And go, okay, you learn from it. Have to go back and learn. Let the cloud go by, learn, go, oh, okay.
Now what action can I take?
You see signs next time, you go, that's not going to work for me.
And I think a lot of the learning
or setting boundaries. Sometimes it's setting
boundaries.
By the way, people can learn and evolve with you.
Right.
Like my wife and I started, let's say 10 years ago, and we were really at the same kind of level. Seriously. It's just, luckily we were both, because I wouldn't have been able to stick with somebody if I saw red flags of like not being able to like evolve. So we both like learned together. Like, hey, like let's learn to talk better to each other. So that can happen. It's not that you can't teach each other, but if one person is like happy to be on level 2 and you're already at level 6 trying to get to 8 or 9, then you got to be like, hey, I respect where you want to be in your life, respect where I want to be in my life, love each other from a distance.
Right. And that's okay. For me, a lot of the learning came from translated into learning how to love myself more and not learning how to look for things in certain people, but look for the signs within myself. Because I'm trying to think of what podcast it was. I can't remember right now.
I was going to ask you, how did you learn? Like literally. Like, is there a book? Is there a podcast? A friend? Was it you just sitting and going, aha?
I think more of it was me just realizing what I wanted and what I didn't want in my life anymore, and realizing that I didn't want to keep suffering, and like and also just from conversations with friends and like reflecting that way and knowing like, okay, that was a really painful experience and I don't want to have it again. So what can I do differently? And
it's like listen to your gut.
Yeah.
You already know.
Yeah, intuition.
It's
trusting
okay to
your
trust
intuition.
what you don't want.
Yes.
And to trust what you want.
And then
change your mind.
Change your mind.
When you learn more information, go, I don't want that anymore. And when people say, yeah, but what do you mean? You don't want my happiness? Doesn't mean being wishy-washy, but when you find yourself, you're not going to just flip every day.
Right.
You're gonna evolve after that, but you're still going to know what you want and should do what you want.
And the more that you find what you don't want, the closer you are to finding what you do want. So I'm thankful for the experience. Like I used to always joke with my grandma, and we would be like, okay, I have 2 really good examples of how not to parent. So
exactly.
So
it's so important.
If I ever have kids, I know all the things not to do, and it's going to be easier to learn the things what
you might have gotten sucked into a relationship if you didn't know those signs from your own experience. Seriously.
Yeah.
It made me stronger about it. I think I would have more easily gotten into another situation I didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
Or not, like even with Tanya, like it's been a lot of like setting boundaries. Both of us.
And boundary setting is a practice in its own, especially growing up in an abusive household. You don't learn how to set boundaries, and you learn how to betray yourself constantly.
Navigate. Right.
Yeah. So
navigate around the abuser.
Yeah, exactly. And then in turn,
just to appease them,
people pleasing.
Right.
And those are all things that you have to actively combat as an adult, as an evolving human.
Yeah. Hey, what happened to the quiet swimming? Doing a podcast over here. We're almost done, by the way. Let us wrap up. No more splashing. Last one, Brandon. Last one. Make it loud. All right.
Boiling water.
I know. We'll get you some cold water right after this. We're going to wrap up soon. We hit the 2-hour mark.
Oh, did we already?
Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. We could go literally all day.
Yeah.
You could easily have a podcast. You should. We should talk about, like, if you want to, you should set something up so you could just do it whenever you want. Or you're welcome to come here and talk about like topics.
Yeah, when I think of a specific topic, because right now I'm
Yeah.
got lots to talk about and it's not very organized up
No,
here.
no.
But
I feel like 2 hour, honestly, like I've learned because I can go long, but it's like you get, I don't know, just the energy and I think you get a lot more bang
yeah,
for the conversation if you split it into two.
right. That way, come back, refocus.
Yeah, because you should come back and like as you're evolving and like and think of topics you want to talk about.
Yeah,
And if you want to come on, we should do it. Or if you want to
Definitely.
start your own, like let us know how we can help.
thank you. I
You know,
appreciate
encourage you to do it, to be a voice. Can you sing something?
that. Oh, hold on. I didn't know I was gonna be put on the spot.
I know that was a good one. I sometimes forget, but I always want to ask because you I don't want to say should. You should right now do it. Yes, you shouldn't have done it before, but you should do it right now. I think.
I don't know what to sing.
What would you sing?
Acapella.
Yeah,
Acapella.
give us some bars.
some bars.
I was gonna.
Ooh.
Okay, you know what? How about this? I'll leave you with a question, and then you can sing bars to it if you want, and you can do it in whatever order. Because maybe while you're answering the question, you'll think of something. Is there any? You kind of said what was your, I guess, tipping point. Although I don't know if you ever totally answered.
No, I didn't.
It was you. You said like talking to people and being mindful, which
Yeah.
that is, by the way, it's a great point I want to get back to, that you don't have to go have access to a therapist necessarily. So a lot of amazing people on like freaking TikTok,
Yeah.
YouTube that can tell you like 80% honestly of what a therapist would tell you. And then it's not replacing a good therapist. I understand that, but you could do a lot of self work
There's a
because you already
lot you
know.
can
It's already
do.
in your gut.
It's
You already know what makes
intuition.
you feel good. Yeah. And what doesn't. Are there any other turning points in your life like that you want to? That was my last question to you, and then maybe give us some bars after that. Like any other were there any like other moments in your life that, or advice you got that you think would be helpful to other people? Or?
I think this year, like the passing of my grandmother was really a turning point because I realized like that I relied on her a lot for a lot of stability. Even still as an adult, because she's really the only stable person I've ever had in my life. And once she passed, it was really like I'm out here like for myself,
Right.
by myself.
Right.
And I have to be strong for myself. And in her passing, learning more about her by like going through some of her belongings and realizing that she was a healer. And like I always knew that, but I didn't know to what extent, because she was a massage therapist. She studied Reiki. She studied the body a lot, and she just had so many interests and so many things that she cared about that I definitely know carried on to me. And knowing that like that's in my blood is being a healer, and being so inspired by the way that she loved and cared for people. And knowing that that's deep within me, and knowing that I want to carry on that legacy, is she really, really cared for people. And sometimes to a fault, you know, sometimes like I wish she would have stood up for herself more. And I learned that for myself. Like it's okay to be a healer, but it's also okay to stand up for yourself and help people to a certain extent. And I think that was a turning point for me, that I needed to remove myself from the environment that hurt me. And it was like the final push where I was like, okay, this is no longer serving me. This environment is still hurting me. So it was the push that I needed to remove myself. And now living in Los Angeles and really taking the time to take care of myself and not take care of everyone else.
Where did you move from?
Ontario. So it's not too far. Ontario, California.
So this last month you moved from Ontario to like LA.
To LA. Got it. Close to downtown.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't like a cross country move or anything.
No, but it's still just being
I know.
able to take myself out of the environment.
Right. No,
alone. I could have moved down the street.
Right.
You know?
Huge.
And I think her passing is really, really difficult. But also
it was the push you needed, because she was kind of she got you to a certain point. She was a little bit of a crutch for you to be able to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And then her passing, in a way, maybe was the right timing for you. Like she gave you a gift.
Yeah.
In a way. Maybe without trying, but she did.
Yeah.
You don't have to go far to inspire people. By the way, like a lot of what you said today inspired me, and like Josh's dad passed away like a few months ago too, and I think like you telling that story was like connecting, because going back and thinking about what that person meant to you in your relationship could kind of help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Like his dad was a massage therapist too, and I
Oh,
was just
wow.
thinking as you were talking how, oh, he was a healer,
Yeah.
and he would like help kids with cancer and people with cancer.
Yeah.
and
Well,
do it
my
free.
grandma was a massage therapist, but she also worked for DCFS.
Yeah,
So she.
I worked for DCFS for a while. I was an auditor.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like auditing programs and seeing like some of the crazy stuff going on in
Yeah.
the county. Yeah.
It's but
Foster
she
care
was just
agencies.
she was a healer in many different forms. And even her grandma before that was like a witch doctor in Mexico. So it's just like I know that there's deep gifts that I've been blessed with that I just haven't been able to unlock because I've spent so much time in survival mode, and I know that I have a very strong intuition, and I know that I have spiritual gifts that like I haven't even talked about that yet.
Right.
Maybe
Tell
from
us.
another part now.
I don't know. I'm intrigued.
I think a lot of people as kids are sensitive, but I was very sensitive as a kid, very sensitive. Where my grandma told me, which I don't remember any of this, and I think through experiencing trauma, I suppressed a lot of my childhood. But my grandma would always tell me that I would turn to her and tell her that I saw colors around people, like I saw their auras, and that I would always explain to her things that she didn't even know how I knew that. And that I constantly saw like, and I know some people like might not believe in spirits or whatever, but I do. And I would see them all the time and talk to them. And like, I used to be really scared as a kid, and I never wanted to sleep in my room alone because I was really scared. And then I learned like, okay, these spirits don't want to hurt me. But I stopped experiencing that past like 15. And I think it's because I suppressed so much of myself through the trauma that I experienced. I suppressed a lot of those things, like those gifts, and not even to go into like too much detail about them, but I do feel like they are still a part of me, and they're something that I want to reconnect to and use them to heal other people. And I know that my grandma was a healer in many different ways, so I know that that's just in my blood.
That's beautiful. I like to see you lean into that. You're healing through music.
Yeah.
Like there's different ways to heal.
So many. Yeah.
So this is exciting.
Yeah.
I really see like big things happening for you. Like
Thank
you're already
you.
doing it. Just the fact that you're where you are right now is exciting. I know it doesn't have to be anything in particular. That's why I'm excited for you, because you're not setting like unrealistic or specific expectations. You're just doing the right things and trusting in the process, being authentic, and I think you're gonna help a lot of people through your music.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there so we could play this in like 10 years. Like Gary Vee, he likes to play things and go, see?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that one thing he got right, he plays it. He doesn't play the other 9 things he got wrong. We won't play those. But I'm telling you, I'm like very sensitive with people. Maybe not to your degree, but like just discerning.
Which is a practice in itself.
Yes. I don't want to call it sizing it up.
Yeah.
Like I'm really find myself I always like to put myself in the talent manager's shoes,
Okay.
whether it's like a business, a person. So I think I'm good at like assessing people's potential too. And it's a lot of factors. It's not just talent, it's mindset, it's approach. Are they going to work hard enough? Do they have enough confidence? Like the one thing I would tell you is don't let any confidence issues hold you back or people hold you back. That would be the only thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
The rest,
Thank
that
you.
way you'll get to see where it really is going to lead organically and naturally.
Yeah, and I trust that whatever is meant for me, whatever is
Exactly.
meant for my path is going to find its way to
Yeah.
me. As long as I keep taking care of myself, I keep
Right.
staying true to myself and remaining
Yes.
authentic, then I'm going to attract the right things.
Right.
Whether those be good things or bad things, because there's a lesson in everything.
Exactly. And learn from everything.
Learn from
Teach
everything.
yourself.
Learn
Let
from
yourself-
everyone that you meet. Even people that I'm like, I don't know about you, but I know that I can always learn from everyone.
Always. Every conversation.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Let's do it. Let's get out there. Make some
I'm
shit
ready.
happen.
I'm
Jess
ready.
Roman.
Thank
So
you.
come back. Don't be a stranger. Zachariah, don't be a stranger. And I don't know. Whatever we could do to help you, and like all of
Appreciate
this will. I mean, you have access to all of our footage too. If you want to, use it in any way you want. Tell your story.
Yeah.
You know,
bits and pieces,
connect-
bits and pieces.
I think like fans connecting with you on a personal level is gonna take your music to another level. So hopefully people will listen and get to know you.
Yeah. That's
Awesome.
all. And all I can hope is as they listen and get to know through connecting with other people, they'll connect to themselves more.
Right.
You know, that's
Exactly.
my biggest hope with my music is just that it'll help people connect to themselves.
Yes. And I really encourage you to keep telling your story.
Thank you.
Because there's so many people going through like struggles, even if it's not the same exact struggle, and to see somebody doing well is very encouraging.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
really proud of you and like impressed with your courage. You're super young to be able to like even say the things you're saying, knowing people might not like it, they might judge you, they might get upset.
Right.
That takes strength to like kind of not worry what people think so much or not let that stop you. So good job.
Thank you.
Keep
Thank
it
you.
going.
Appreciate it.
You have our support.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey, Jess Roman in the house. Jess Roman, just keep being you. That's it.
Thank you.
Keep being you. That's all you need to do.
Drop
Keep
mic.
showing up.
Yeah.
Keep being you. JoshDPRaw behind the
Hey.
camera. Let's go. We can keep chatting. We can like roll it out, or maybe we'll keep rolling whatever. You never sang.
Good.
Jess
I'm glad you
Roman.
forgot.
Wait, no.
No, I'm not.
No, keep it rolling. Jess, come on. There's no pressure. We could actually sit here and wait, and then you could decide not to do it. That's how no pressure this is.
I don't know what I would sing.
I'm already impressed. If you just make a sound, I'm gonna say, all right, you good.
What's my message to everyone right now? I don't know. Listen to yourself. Listen. Listen to yourself. Listen.
That was awesome.
That's all I know.
That was awesome.
Hey.
Mess with it.
Hey.
Look, you definitely got it.
I don't know.
You definitely got it. So it's all in your mind, for sure. Like it's not like you're a kind of a bad singer. It's like I know it's not good, but you got to keep practicing. Like you got it. So you really could, in the future, just sing everywhere you go. You should let people hear you and go, "What? Who is that?" Like walk into a Chick-fil-A and sing and brighten someone's day.
Yeah.
Because it's good, it's pleasant, it's awesome. So why hold it back? Other than irrational fear, which we all have. Irrational fear of not being good enough, not being ready. When are you ready?
Never. When
And
is anyone
it'll
ready
get
for
better,
anything?
like meaning it'll keep getting better and more confident. Because the way you sing, the confidence matters a lot. So
Definitely.
as you do it, by virtue of doing it, you're getting better and better because the confidence will keep going up because it won't be a big deal. If you
Right.
keep singing everywhere you go, it'll become not a big deal.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important.
Right.
That if you don't do that, it's going to be very
Well,
challenging.
it's not so much about singing. It's about, I think in this case, what am I singing? Like, I
Right.
don't, I
But
don't
still,
know. Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Knock him out the box, Rick. Knock him out, Rick. Knock him out the box.